Today we're going to look at some examples of problems that you're about to have on your assignment in Delta Math. The problems involve the distributive property as well as fractions. Okay, so here we have our first example, which is the easy type of questions that you're going to get today. There's two different ways to do this type of problem. However, for the sake of keeping things simple and to do it the same way on every problem, I recommend that you just do the distributive property. Alright, so let's do the distributive property. So if I multiply 2 times 7z, I'm going to get 14z. And if I multiply 2 times negative 7, I'm going to get negative 14. Okay, and our goal here is to solve for the variable, solve for z. So I want to get z by itself on one side of the equation and get everything else to the other side of the equation. So as I've said before, the number that's with the variable, you move last. First, you got to get rid of this number right here that's being added or subtracted, the minus 14, by doing the opposite operation of subtracting 14, which is adding 14 to both sides. So on this side, the negative 14 plus 14 gives you 0. It cancels out. Okay, and on this side, 14 plus 14 is 28. So now I got 14z equals 28, and my last step is to move the 14 and put it beneath the 28 and do division. 28 divided by 14. So z is going to equal positive 2. That should be an equal sign. Z equals 2. Let's look at another example. This is the exact same type of problem, except we're also going to have to combine like terms. But first thing you should do is the distributive property. So I'm going to distribute the 2 to everything that's inside the parentheses. So 2 times 5x gives me 10x. And 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. I'm going to bring down everything else. So okay, now we got to combine like terms. So like terms means anything that has the same variable in the back of that term, as well as any numbers that are just by themselves. So for example, the first thing you should combine is 10x minus 2x. That's like saying 10 cars minus 2 cars. 10x minus 2x will give you 8x. And then right here, the negative 4 minus 2 is going to give you negative 6. Alright, so just in case anybody doesn't get that, negative 4 minus 2 on a number line, remember that when you subtract 2 from any number, if I'm here and I tell you subtract 2, it doesn't matter what number it is, you got to go 2 numbers to the left. But if your starting point is at negative 4 and you go 2 numbers to the left, the numbers are going like this on the number line. So negative 4 minus 2 gives you negative 6. Okay? Now again, as I always say, the number that's with the variable, you move last. Alright, so the 8 I'm going to move at the end. The first thing I'm going to get rid of is this minus 6 by doing plus 6 to both sides. So this part cancels out, and this part will be 40. So 8x equals 40. So now move the 8, and instead of multiplying, you do division. So x equals 40 divided by 8. That means x equals 5. Okay, now we'll have one more example like this, and then we're going to look at some examples with fractions. Alright, so this is the same thing we just did. I just wanted to go over it because it has a few more negative signs, but it's the same thing. Okay, so again, I'm going to do the distributive property. This is negative 3 times negative x. Okay, a negative times a negative equals a positive. And 3 times x is 3x. Now negative 3 times positive 2. A negative times a positive equals a negative. And 3 times 2 is 6. Everything else I'm just going to bring it down. Okay, now again, first thing I'm going to do before I move anything to the other side of the equation is combine like terms. So I'm going to combine the 3x minus the 4x. Okay, so 3 minus 4 is negative 1. So that means I have negative 1x. I'll say it again. If I'm on a number line, 3 minus 4. Okay, if I'm starting here, I don't care what number this is, whether it's 10, 20, 50, whatever. If you subtract 4 from a number, you always go 4 units to the left. So if I'm starting at 3, well, 3 minus 3 is 0. So if I take away more than 3, it's got to be a negative number by whatever's left over. So 3 minus 4 is got to give you negative 1. Okay, so 3x minus 4x is negative 1x. However, you don't write the 1. It's understood that there's an invisible 1 there. So negative x means negative 1x. Okay, now I'm going to do over here, I'm going to combine the negative 6 plus 3. Okay, so again, on a number line, negative 6 plus 3. Whenever you add 3, I don't care what number you're starting at, you go 3 units to the right. 10 plus 3 would be 13. 20 plus 3 would be 23. I'm doing the same thing, except my starting point is negative 6. And when I go 3 units to the right, 1, 2, 3, that gives me negative 3. So negative 6 plus 3 is negative 3. And then this 3 over here, I'm just going to bring it down. Okay, so now I'm just going to follow the same steps. If something looks a little weird to you, just think about what you did when it looks simple and follow the same steps. All right? The number that's with the variable, I move last. What number is with this variable x? Negative 1, which is in front of x. That's the last thing I'm going to move. The first thing I'm going to move is this number right here that's being either added or subtracted. So I'm going to get rid of the minus 3 by adding 3 to both sides. Alright, negative 3 plus 3 is 0. So that cancels out. And over here, 3 plus 3 is 6. And I bring down the negative x. Okay, now again, there's an invisible 1 here. So negative 1 is in front of x. So to get rid of it, I'm going to divide both sides by negative 1. Okay, a negative divided by a negative equals a positive. And any number divided by 1 equals whatever number's here. So this is going to give you positive x equals, now 6 divided by negative 1 equals negative 6. Why? Because a positive divided by a negative equals a negative, and 6 divided by 1 is 6. So x equals negative 6. Okay, our next example. Now we're going to have problems with fractions, all right? I'm going to go over it because with these fractions, it's actually going to work out simple. If you do it the way I'm going to advise you to do it, which is to always do the distributive property, all right? So I'm going to do the distributive property here. Again, we're trying to solve for the variable, solve for x. So first thing I'm going to do is multiply. Okay, why is my pen not working? Just one second. Oh, okay, got it. All right, I'm going to multiply 1/2 times each term inside the parentheses, okay? Now, to multiply fractions, in case you forgot, 1/2 times 9x, you're going to leave the x in the back, so it's really just 1/2 times 9. Look how simple this is, all right? Just turn the 9 into a fraction by putting a 1 on the bottom, and you multiply the top times the top, and the bottom times the bottom. So when I multiply 1/2 times 9x, I'm going to get 9. You could either write it like this, or you could put the x on the side. They both mean the same thing. All right, now let's do the same thing. 1/2 times negative 4. 1/2. Forget the negative for 1 second, because a positive times a negative is going to give you a negative. All you got to worry about is 1/2 times 4. All right, 1/2 times 4. Again, follow the same steps. Turn the 4 into a fraction by putting a 1 beneath it. Now you multiply the top times the top and the bottom times the bottom. Okay, so I got that. I'm going to simplify it in 1 second. You could have simplified it already if you wanted to. Actually, we probably should have simplified it, but I'll do it now. All right, so as you can see here, 4 divided by 2 is 2. So I'm going to simplify that. All right, so now my problem becomes 6 equals 9x over 2 minus 2. Okay, the number that's with the letter, I'm going to move last. I'm going to move this minus 2 first. okay, by doing plus 2 to both sides. So 6 plus 2 is 8. Negative 2 plus 2 is 0. So all I got left is this. Okay, now listen, to get rid of this fraction, all you got to do is multiply both sides by the reciprocal of that fraction. The reciprocal means to flip it upside down so that the bottom number is on the top and the top number is on the bottom. So I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal. Okay? Okay, so right here, when I multiply 2 over 9 times 9 over 2, I'm going to get 18 over 18. And 18 over 18 equals 1, because 18 divided by 18 is 1. So basically, this part cancels out. And over here, I'm going to multiply 2 over 9 times 8. The same way that we did it over here. Turn the 8 into a fraction by putting a 1 beneath it. Now on the top, you're going to get 2 times 8, which is 16. And on the bottom, you're going to get 9 times 1, which is 9. And that's going to be your answer. X equals 16 over 9, all right, which makes more sense if I write the X first. You could write it either way, but this way is easier to understand. Okay, that would be my answer. You always got to check if a fraction can be simplified. In this case, it cannot be simplified because there's no number that you could divide the top and the bottom by to make them smaller. Let's look at another example. All right, same type of problem. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is the distributive property. Okay, so 1 over 8 times 3, put a 1 beneath the 3, and it's just going to give you 3 over 8. So when I multiply 1 over 8 times 3x, I'm going to get 3 over 8x. And you know what? On second thought, I'm going to write the x over here. You could write it on the top as well. It means the same thing, but I think it'll be easier to understand that way. Okay, now 1 over 8 times 16, if you're good, you could do that in your head because it's pretty easy. But for everyone, I'm going to do this. And you got to realize that 16 divided by 8 equals 2. If you don't realize that, it's because you don't have your timetables memorized. Alright, now I follow the same steps. I'm going to first get rid of the 2 by subtracting 2 from both sides. Okay, that'll give me this. Now to get rid of this fraction that's multiplying with the x, I'm going to multiply both sides of the equation by the reciprocal of 3 over 8. So the reciprocal would be 8 over 3. Okay, so when I do that, I'm going to get on the left-hand side, imagine an invisible 1 beneath the 2. So 8 times 2 on the top would be 16, and on the bottom, 3 times 1 would be 3. Over here, these cancel out because they equal positive 1. So there's my answer. X equals 16 over 3, or you could write it like this. And again, I always got to check if you could simplify the fraction. In this case, it's already simplified. One more example. Again, first thing I'm going to do is the distributive property. So I'm going to multiply 5 over 2 times each of these. Okay, 5 over 2 times 5, put a 1 beneath the 5. The top times the top, and the bottom times the bottom. Alright, so that's going to give me 13 equals 25 over 2x. Now I'm going to do 5 over 2 times 4. 5 over 2 times 4. Put a 1 beneath the 4. On the top, I'm going to get 5 times 4, which is 20. On the bottom, 2 times 1, which is 2. And when you divide that, 20 divided by 2 equals 10. Alright, so right here, I'm going to have a 10. Okay, so now follow the same steps. First, let's get rid of the 10 by subtracting 10 from both sides. That's going to give you 3 equals 25 over 2. Okay, now to get rid of the 25 over 2, I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 25 over 2, which would be 2 over 25. Okay, so on this side, this is going to give you a positive 1, so you could just get rid of all that. Now on this side, imagine there's an invisible 1 beneath the 3, So the top times the top would be 2 times 3, which is 6. The bottom times 1 would give you 25. So that's my answer. X equals 6 over 25. X equals 6 over 25. Okay, now I'm not going to go over any more examples like this. However, I did put a few more examples in the video that if you need them. Oh, I'm sorry, I do have one more example. Let's just do one more fast one. I thought that was the last one. Yeah, this is the last one, I'm sorry. All right, so first do the distributive property. All right, so 1 over 3 times 7 over 1 is going to give you 7 over 3. Obviously, once you get the hang of it, you could do it mental math. And if you do get it, I would encourage you to do it mental math when you can. Okay, and 1 over 3 times 3, 1 over 3 times 3, put a 1 beneath the 3. So it's going to give you 3 over 3, which equals 1. So when you multiply 1 over 3 times this, a positive times a negative equals a negative. And 1 over 3 times 3 is going to give you 1. Okay, so again, I'm trying to get the variable x by itself. So first I'm going to get rid of the minus 1 by adding 1 to both sides. That's going to give you 4 plus 1 is 5. I bring down 7 over 3x. Okay, now to get rid of the 7 over 3, I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 7 over 3, which is 3 over 7. Alright, so on the left-hand side, on the top, I'm going to get 15. On the bottom, I'm going to get 7. So x equals 15 over 7. Okay, now what I was going to say is that that's my last example, but I did put a couple of other examples that you could look at. They'll be in this video. So if you need another example, you can look at these and pause it. It's the same explanation I just did. And I believe there's one more. There's another example that you could look at later if you need it. If you need any additional examples. Okay? 3 more examples actually. Same exact procedure that I was doing. Okay, now the assignment for today is on deltamath.com. If anybody needs my teacher code, there it is. So it's called Equations Mixed Intensive, and it has today's date, September 22nd. It'll be due by 6 a.m. the next day that you have my class, which would be Thursday. And you have to get 15 questions right to finish. 15. That concludes this video.